The first sound was not a cry, not a prayer, but a gavel striking against metal. A single boom, hollow and final, that declared the worth of 20 stolen lives. The chamber shivered with it, and the gathered nobles of the Galactic Empire leaned forward as though it were music. No one in the room looked at the children as children. To them, they were curiosities, commodities, amusements to be bartered and bought. The galaxy's most ancient empire had reduced humanity's youngest to an evening's entertainment. The auctioneer, tall and polished like a figure carved from obsidian, smiled with professional ease. Lot 1 through 20. Juvenile Terrans. Age range, 6 to 12 rotations. Rare stock. Fragile. Susceptible to breakdown, but intriguing for experimentation. We shall open the bidding at. He did not finish before the chamber broke into chatter. Some laughed, some whispered in curiosity, some scribbled on glowing slates to calculate what their rivals might pay. Words like breeding stock, pet, biological oddity, drifted through the air like poison mist. The children huddled inside their containment field, pressed shoulder to shoulder, every one of them too exhausted to cry anymore. They had been taken in different raids, some torn from schoolyards, others from broken ships along border space. The Empire had kept them alive, though barely, because novelty had value. A dying child could not be sold, but a frightened one? That drew bids. One small boy muttered under his breath, though no one but the others could hear. Dad said never to be afraid of monsters. They should be afraid of us. His voice cracked, but his jaw stayed set. The eldest girl, 11 years old, whispered back, "Don't forget." They promised. "They're coming." She tightened her hand on the boy's. Her other hand gripped the shoulder of a child barely past 6, steadying her so she wouldn't fall. The auctioneer lifted a long arm, silencing the crowd with a gesture. "Now, esteemed bidders, you must understand the unique rarity of this acquisition. Humanity has resisted full absorption into our empire. Their worlds are scattered, their fleets primitive, their army stubborn. Yet here," he gestured as if unveiling an exotic meal, "here we have their essence, pure and untainted. 20 Terran offspring. Imagine the possibilities." A ripple of cruel laughter ran through the chamber. One bidder called out, "Will they need leashes?" Another shouted, "Do they bite?" A ripple of amusement. The auctioneer chuckled along, pretending modest disapproval. "Gentlemen, ladies, assorted, distinguished forms," he purred. "Let us not delay. Lot 1 begins at 5,000 credits." The bidding began in earnest. Voices rose and fell, credits climbed higher and higher. Some alien lords bid casually, sipping jeweled glasses as though discussing horses. Others leaned forward with gleaming eyes, eager to own what no other noble had. Every increase in number was another nail driven deeper into the coffin of dignity. Yet, within the cage, the children did not collapse. They whispered, hummed, muttered words that made no sense to their captors. One recited multiplication tables. Another sang a line from a baseball anthem he barely remembered. A girl pressed her palm to the invisible barrier, murmuring a rhyme her grandmother used to say about wolves and sheep. The other children joined, soft voices weaving scraps of Earth's noise and nonsense into a fragile shield. To the aliens, it was meaningless. To the children, it was defiance. One bidder sneered, "Pathetic things. Their kind dies with fire. Their eyes leak water when they mourn. What threat could they possibly be?" A heavy-bodied merchant beside him frowned. "Do not mock them. I have heard things. Their soldiers once broke an entire fleet with nothing but steel and rage." "Propaganda," the first scoffed. The merchant did not answer. He was remembering the way humans fought when cornered, how their ships had burned rather than surrender. He shifted uneasily in his seat. The auctioneer banged the gavel again. 10,000 credits, going once. The children held their breath. 10,000 credits, going twice. One of the boys grinned suddenly, his lips cracked and bleeding. He whispered, "That's when he comes. 10,000 cred." The chamber lights flickered. A murmur spread through the crowd. The auctioneer paused, gavel midair. A minor fluctuation. Nothing more. Continue. But the children knew. Their shoulders straightened. Their eyes flickered with something fierce and strange. Hope not as frail as before, but as sharp as a blade. 11,000 credits, another bidder barked, trying to seize the moment. 11,500, another countered. The gavel slammed down, sealing the lot, and with it the Empire's arrogance. The sound echoed like thunder through the chamber. The auctioneer lifted his arms, triumphant. Sold. And in that instant, the ceiling shuddered. The air quaked with a vibration older than the Empire's arrogance, and deeper than its gold. A vessel pierced the orbit above, not gilded nor sleek, but scarred, battered, unmistakably human. Its arrival was not announced by fanfare, but by silence that smothered every laugh in the chamber. The auctioneer forced a laugh. Some derelict ship. Irrelevant. Continue with the next lot. No, whispered the eldest girl. It's him. The vessel hung above the auction world, like a fist raised in patience. The crowd erupted in disbelief. Some aliens scoffed, others trembled. Terran junk, sneered one noble. Barely space-worthy. Another, older voice muttered, you fool. If it came here, it came with purpose. Within the cage, 20 pairs of eyes blazed. The children stood taller, shoulders squared, as though the presence of that ship gave them back the bones the Empire had tried to break. The auctioneer raised his voice above the noise. Ignore it. Resume bidding. Lot 21, a fine specimen from the... The chamber doors groaned. Metal, reinforced and blessed by centuries of imperial wealth, bent as though it were tin. With a hiss, they split open. A figure entered. He did not stride as a conqueror. He walked as though on an evening stroll. His boots echoed slow against the polished floor, every step more dreadful than a legion's march. His uniform was not gilded, not polished. It was simple, worn, patched in places. Old earth military cloth, not meant to impress, but to endure. He smiled. That was the most terrifying thing. A smile as warm as a neighbor greeting you over a fence. A smile as calm as a man stopping by a shop. Good evening, he said, his voice polite, even friendly. I'm here for my children. Would you kindly release them before I grow impolite? The chamber stilled. A dozen nobles barked laughter, but it rang hollow. A dozen more looked to the guards. Weapons rose, humming with plasma. The man did not move. His hands were clasped loosely behind his back. His eyes were not smiling. They were cold, ancient, sharpened on years of war. The eldest girl pressed her forehead to the glass and whispered, Daddy. The word cracked through the silence like another gavel. The auctioneer faltered. His mouth opened, then shut. His voice trembled as he tried to recover authority. This is a restricted event. You have no rights here. You will depart immediately, or what? The man's smile widened, though it held no kindness now. You'll sell more children? Raise your price to 12,000. His tone remained light, almost conversational. One alien lord sneered. You dare walk into the heart of the Empire with that tone? The man tilted his head. Tone? Forgive me. We humans can be hard to translate. Sometimes our courtesy sounds like threats. He let the pause stretch. And sometimes our threats sound like courtesy. The guards stepped forward, weapons aimed. The man's eyes flicked to the children. They were calm, now, breathing as one, as if they had been waiting for this rhythm, this moment. Stay ready, the eldest girl whispered. The man's voice softened, so quiet it chilled the marrow. Auctioneer, gentle nobles, you've mistaken us. We aren't prey animals to be bartered. We aren't curiosities to fill your cages. We are a species that remembers. We are a species that comes when called. A ripple of unease spread through the chamber. Some nobles shifted, suddenly aware that the guards' weapons trembled slightly in their hands. The auctioneer tried again, voice rising to false bravado. Remove him. At once. No one moved. Because above them, the ship's hull began to glow. Because the children inside the cage had stopped trembling. Because the polite man had not raised his voice, had not lifted a weapon, and yet the room already felt conquered. The gavel that had begun this nightmare still lay on its pedestal, gleaming in the artificial light. The man glanced at it, then back at the auctioneer. His smile turned almost tender. Strange things, gavels. On earth, they close business. In courts, they decide justice. In auctions, he looked at his children, his voice lowering to a whisper that still carried to every year. In auctions, they decide ownership. But I think tonight, friends, you'll discover there are some things you cannot buy, and some debts you cannot afford. The chamber's silence was absolute. The children's eyes shone. The noble's confidence faltered. And somewhere above, the human ship shifted, blocking out the stars. The first boom was not a weapon, but the gavel again, struck in desperation, the sound sharp and tragic as a gunshot in church. The auctioneer meant it to restore order. Instead, it marked the unraveling of everything the empire believed about humans. Nathan Cole did not flinch. He stood in the shattered doorway, as though he had all the time in the galaxy, hands clasped behind his back, shoulders straight, eyes calm. Politeness clung to him like a second skin. To the nobles, he looked like nothing, just a man, weary and unremarkable. To his children, he was gravity itself. "Before we continue," Nathan said, voice warm as honey and twice as slow, "we need to fix an accounting error. Those 20? They're not for sale." The chamber rippled with derision. Laughter clattered like drop coins. One noble fanned himself theatrically. Another muttered, "Bold for livestock." The auctioneer fought for dignity. "You are trespassing. Identify yourself for the record, then surrender for processing." Nathan inclined his head as though meeting a neighbor. Nathan Cole. "Father." That's the record that matters. "Father." The word hung heavier than titles. A child's whisper carried. He came. Praetor Luth Kavar, a sleek aristocrat with a voice trained to dominate, rose in his private box. "Terran, under imperial charter, your species has no standing. You are irrelevant." Nathan smiled gently. "Relevance tends to arrive unfashionably late." "Like me." Snickers rose. One young lord sneered. "One Terran walks into the heart of the empire, expecting us to bend?" Adorable. Archivist Sarah, old as empires and sharper than any noble, tapped her cane. "Be cautious. Humans rarely arrive alone." The chamber hushed. Nathan glanced once at the containment field where 20 pairs of eyes shone. The eldest girl mouthed, "We're here." He blinked, and that was answer enough. When he turned back, his politeness had thinned into something brittle. "I'll make a generous offer," he said. "Release my children. Apologize without conditions. Live." The auctioneer barked a laugh. "Meaningless." "Not conditions," Nathan replied lightly. "Options." Guards leveled weapons. Nathan ignored them, speaking as if at a town meeting. "My mother taught me rules. Say please, return what isn't yours, don't touch kids. Simple things. We call it PDA etiquette." Praetor Kavar scowled. "We are not interested in quaint customs." "That's your accounting error," Nathan murmured. The gavel lifted again. Nathan's ship above whispered with a low thrum that seeped into bone. The chamber stilled. "Your vessel is obsolete," Kavar sneered. "A museum piece." "Museum pieces," Nathan said mildly, "built the world. We keep what works." A guard shouted, "On your knees." Nathan's voice was silk over steel. "You first." The pause was longer than the order. The guard faltered, and the chamber learned what it meant for words to bruise. Archivist Sarah leaned forward. Not a soldier's swagger. Apparent certainty. "Close enough," Nathan said. "We learn logistics packing lunches, strategy on playgrounds, siegecraft waiting outside locked doors. And battle." Kavar mocked. "That's the part we try to retire." A new voice rang out, cheerful and sharp. "He's being polite because we promised." Another figure stepped through the ruin, hands loose, eyes bright. "Jiro Tanaka. Uncle. I collect debts." Behind him came a woman, strong and quiet. "Maria Alvarez. Aunt. I negotiate refunds." Then another, smiling like he'd been born in the wrong bar fight. "Owen Price. Godfather. I close tabs." The children gasped relief. The nobles reeled. The math shifted. Kavar roared security. No one moved fast enough to prove they believed. Nathan sighed. I am trying so hard to stay nice. Auctioneer, ceremony isn't sovereignty. Slam that gavel again, and it'll be the last thing you own. The auctioneer's hand trembled. Prince Ciri, young and arrogant, leaned forward. Why do you think we'll let you leave alive? Nathan pondered, like choosing pie. Because you want to live long enough to be embarrassed about tonight. Ciri laughed. We tame planets. We break rebellions. We will break you. Ambition's good, Nathan said. But first, hear me out. He stepped closer. You took our children. Dressed theft in procedure. Counted credits while the house burned. Sarah's cane tapped. You speak in parables. Bad habit. Here's plain. Return them, and my family stands down. Family. Ciri mocked. Family, Maria said. That noun travels armed. Jiro raised 2 fingers. Above, the ship growled deeper. Kavar spat. The Empire won't be menaced by PDA metaphors. Fair, Nathan said kindly. Try this. There are lines in our story you don't cross and stay characters. You become cautionary tales. The auctioneer stammered. If you kill us, the Empire will drown your worlds in ash. Jiro chuckled. Tried ash. We grew potatoes in it. Nathan's voice softened, razor under cloth. Last chance. Release them. Apologize. Live. Silence. Ciri snapped fingers. A guard fired. Nathan wasn't there. He'd stepped aside as though offering the aisle. Shots went wide. Jiro flicked a hand. 1 guard dropped. Maria whispered, Enough, 2 froze. Owen smiled, and weapons fizzled out. No massacre. Just intentions reordered. Nathan clasped his hands again. See? We're keeping the mess small. Sarah exhaled. You don't want war. No one with kids wants war, Nathan said. We just want thieves to stop pretending. Kavar rasped. And if we refuse? We'll be disappointed, Nathan said. And thorough. The auctioneer whispered, What do you want on record? That an error was corrected. Call them by their names. Son, daughter, niece, nephew. Say the Empire returned what it had no right to claim. Never, Ciri hissed. Always a choice, Jiro said. A trembling noble rose. I moved that he couldn't finish. Pride choked him. Sarah looked at Kavar. I advise surrender. Kavar spat. You'll regret this diplomacy. Sir, Nathan said, we invented customer complaints. A few nervous laughs escaped. The children straightened. The ship, above, hummed deeper. Kavar glared at the ceiling. What is it doing? Keeping the conversation on schedule, Owen said. 2 minutes, Maria murmured. Until what? The auctioneer asked. Until courtesy expires, Jiro said. Nathan's voice softened for the room. You can rewrite tonight. Imagine being remembered as the first to choose decency. Ciri snarled, You're nothing. Noise. We're parents, Nathan whispered. We are the end of arguments. Sarah sighed. If you came alone, I'd believe mercy. But you didn't. No, Nathan said, letting iron show. We came as many. The chamber shifted on its axis. Outside, unseen engines adjusted fate. Kavar demanded, What trap do you think you've set? None you'll see if you do right, Nathan said. We prefer happy endings. American enough to like bows on them. Sarah almost smiled. She had read enough Earth history to recognize the joke. Time, Maria said softly. Nathan looked at the auctioneer. Decide. The man's hand shook above the gavel. Ciri cursed and lunged for the cage control. Dead panel. Owen still smiled. Tabs closed. Kavar raised a weapon. I pronounce sentence. A child's voice cut through. My dad says sentences end with periods. And this one ends now. The chamber froze. Nathan bowed to her, then turned. Last offer. Never, Kavar spat. Then we downgrade, Nathan said, painfully polite. From generous to reasonable. He lifted one finger. Above the planet, 3 more ships answered, silent and absolute. Nathan did not look up. He looked only at the men who thought a gavel owned futures. Begin again, he said, or be ended. And just as silence strangled pride, another voice, warm and unmistakable, bled into the system channel. Kids, this is Mom. We're parked. The boom came from the ceiling this time, a thunderous crack as an armored bulkhead slammed shut, locking the chamber like a tomb. For the nobles, it was tragedy. For the children, it was confirmation. The Empire had chosen defiance. Nathan Cole did not sigh, though the weight of inevitability pressed on his shoulders. He had offered courtesy, and it had been refused. The smile remained on his lips, easy and pleasant, but it was no longer an invitation. It was a mask of teeth. Lockdown, the auctioneer barked, as if the word itself would turn disaster back into control. Guards rushed to form ranks. Their weapons hummed alive, casting a faint glow across trembling hands. Jiro tilted his head. They always think walls make them safer. Maria's voice was soft, nearly a prayer. Or Graves. Owen Price cracked his knuckles like a man about to play cards. Time to cash out. The children pressed to the barrier, wide-eyed but no longer afraid. The eldest girl whispered, "They don't understand." Nathan took one step forward. The guards braced. "You had a chance," he said politely, each word measured like a teacher correcting a stubborn student. "Now I'll have to be practical." Kavar, face flushed with fury, raised his blade of office. "Kill them." The guards opened fire. The first shots filled the air with searing light. The boom of discharges echoed through the chamber, tragic in their futility. Jiro moved like water, sidestepping and striking. A weapon was turned back on its wielder with a sickening thud. Maria advanced, no flourish, only efficiency. She touched two soldiers, and they fell, joints buckled as if strings had been cut. Owen caught a plasma bolt with a stolen shield and shoved the guard backward into his own squad. Nathan never unclasped his hands. He walked through the storm, bullets of light skimming past him, every step slow, unhurried. "We're not remarkable," he said conversationally. "Not in the way you think. We don't have claws or scales or the gift of telepathy. What we have is worse." A guard lunged. Nathan sidestepped, caught the man's wrist, and gently set him down. The alien did not rise again. "What we have," Nathan continued, "is memory. What we have is hunger." Panic spread through the chamber. Nobles screamed for more guards, more reinforcements, more anything. The soldiers broke ranks under the pressure of men and women who fought not as warriors, but as parents. Every strike was calculated, merciless, efficient. No wasted motion. No hesitation. The children clung to one another, their whispered songs sharper now, almost like chants. "Daddy's here. Aunt Maria's here. Uncle Jiro. Uncle Owen." Their voices braided together, defiance in miniature. Kavar shouted above the chaos, "They are only 4. The Empire has thousands." Nathan's eyes flicked up to him, still polite, still calm. "And yet here you are afraid." Archivist Sarah sat back, cane across her knees. "Afraid because it is not 4. It is the idea of them. One becomes an army when you realize you cannot break them." Guards fell. Weapons clattered. The nobles shrank back. But it wasn't the violence that undid them. It was the way humans fought while speaking softly, smiling faintly, their every jest barbed with inevitability. Owen threw down a disarmed rifle with a grin. "Back home, Friday nights at the pub get uglier than this. And we don't even get paid." Jiro smirked, stepping over a fallen guard. These guys wouldn't last 2 minutes in rush hour traffic. Maria's gaze cut like steel. "Don't joke too loud. Fear listens better in silence." Nathan nodded slightly. He had no need to boast, no need to threaten. His children were watching, and his enemies were learning. Kavar pounded the railing. "This is not victory. The Empire endures. You cannot." The chamber shook again. This time it was not doors, but the ground itself, a rumble that crawled up the spine of every creature present. Nobles looked to the ceiling, to the unseen orbit above. Nathan's voice was almost tender. "Oh, that's not me. That's just my insurance policy." The auctioneer, pale and sweating, stammered, "What have you done?" "Nothing dramatic," Nathan said. "We only told the truth. Humans don't bluff with children's lives. You touch them, so we move the line. And lines, once moved, tend to cut." On cue, the holoscreens flared alive. showing feeds across the sector. Human ships, scattered, small, crude by galactic standards, appeared in places they shouldn't have been able to reach. Dozens of them. Not fleets, but knives, each pointed at something vital. Jiro whistled. Looks like the cousins showed up. Maria's smile was slight, fierce. Always on time for family dinners. The children laughed through their tears, pride blooming where fear had lived. The nobles gasped. Impossible, one muttered. They don't have the range. They don't have the resources. They don't. Sarah cut him off. They don't ask permission. Kavar roared, desperate now. We are the Empire. You are insects. Nathan finally raised his voice, and it was like ice cracking on a river. We are the species that learned to burn gods. Don't mistake patience for weakness. Don't mistake politeness for surrender. The silence afterward was thicker than smoke. A single guard, trembling, dropped his weapon. Then another. The room shifted, momentum bleeding away from Empire authority into human certainty. The auctioneer, voice breaking, whispered, What do you want? Nathan looked at his children, then back at the nobles. His words were soft, but they carried like thunder. I want them back. Every child, every stolen son, every broken daughter. I want the Empire to understand that you cannot put a price on blood. And if you fail to understand, he paused, smile never fading. We'll do what parents do. We'll make you learn. Kavar shook with rage. You'll drown in our armies. Owen chuckled. Armies? Cute. You ever seen a mom at a Black Friday sale? Jiro added. Or a dad at a Little League game? Nathan's smile thinned into something sharp. Our wars aren't built on numbers. They're built on grudges. The weight of that truth rippled outward. The aliens shifted, unsettled. They could feel it. The scale had tilted. Sarah bowed her head slightly. I warned them. A smile is never harmless. Maria bent beside a fallen guard, disarming him without malice. I told you. We don't seek war. But we don't leave debts unpaid. The eldest girl pressed her palm harder to the barrier. Dad, she whispered, they're scared. I know, Nathan answered softly. That's the beginning of wisdom. Kavar screamed, they will never. The ceiling cracked again, a louder boom, not from above, but from beyond. Holoscreens showed another sector, an imperial shipyard going dark, its engines gutted by human sabotage. Another feed, an armory detonating into fire. Jiro folded his arms. All right, we didn't come alone. Owen grinned wide. We never do. The nobles shrieked, their arrogance crumbling into naked fear. Nathan's voice was calm as prayer. You auctioned our children. Now the auction is over. Your lives are the payment. The chamber trembled with the echo. Kavar clutched his blade tighter, eyes wild. You think you can unmake us? Nathan's eyes narrowed. For the first time, the smile faltered, revealing the truth beneath. I don't think. I remember. Empires fall. Always. The silence was broken only by the sob of a child. Relief, not fear. The auctioneer sank to his knees, gavel falling from his hand. The hollow boom rang like a funeral bell. Nathan walked closer to the barrier. The children pressed toward him, their small faces glowing with trust. Not much longer, he said. Hold on. Above, the ships repositioned. The feeds crackled. The galaxy leaned in to watch. Sarah whispered almost to herself, if the Empire survives tonight, it will never be the same. Maria looked up at Nathan. Courtesy's gone. Nathan shook his head gently. No, courtesy remains. That's the difference. They'll learn the teeth come after the smile. Kavar bellowed, his voice breaking under fury and terror. What trap have you sprung, Terran? Nathan's smile returned, faint and polite, but the glint in his eye was merciless. The kind you walked into yourselves. And as the lights flickered once more, the children's chant swelled, soft, steady, defiant, until the chamber's fear had only one rhythm left, the sound of human promise. The chamber groaned as though the weight of history pressed down upon it. Sparks dripped from the ceiling where stray fire had kissed the metal. Smoke curled, half choking the nobles who had moments ago been laughing. Now their voices were whispers, arguments drowned in the deeper hum of human ships above. Nathan Cole remained at the center, hands still clasped behind his back, smile faint and terrible. Around him, Jiro, Maria, and Owen stood like stones in a river, calm in the torrent of fear. 20 children pressed close to the barrier, every eye locked on their fathers, aunts, uncles. The auctioneer, pale and shaking, clutched his gavel like it might still matter. Kavar, fury drunk, raised his blade of office, as though ceremony could reforge authority. "You think this is over?" Kavar spat. "The Empire is eternal. For every guard you drop, 10 more stand ready. For every ship you cripple, 10 more wait." Nathan tilted his head as though considering a menu. "Eternal. That's a long time to be wrong." Kavar bared his teeth. "You cannot kill an empire." Owen chuckled, hands loose at his sides. "We've been practicing. Started with monarchies, worked up through dictatorships, tossed in a few corporations. Empires? Just taller trees for the same axe." The nobles shouted for evacuation, for reinforcements, for escape. But every exit was sealed, every channel jammed. Screens showed human ships cutting off lanes one by one, patient as spiders tightening threads. Maria's voice was calm, but each word landed like a hammer. "You thought children would buy you profit. Tonight they bought you debt." Kavar roared and leapt forward. Jiro stepped into his path, no flourish, only precision. One twist, one strike, and the praetor's blade clattered across the floor. Kavar staggered, gasping, his authority bleeding out with his dignity. Nathan did not look at him. He looked at the auctioneer. "You have one duty left. Call it." The man trembled. "Call what?" "Verdict," Nathan said gently. "Ownership. You decide if this empire belongs to its arrogance or to its survival." The auctioneer's hand shook around the gavel. He could not lift it. Kavar hissed, "Do not bow to them. They are liars, beasts in flesh." "Maybe," Owen said with a grin, "but we're the beasts you auctioned. You don't get to complain when the teeth show." The nobles murmured, panic hardening into dread. One, younger and less foolish, whispered, "If they can reach here, if they can do this." His words trailed off, the implication too vast. Nathan turned, finally unclasping his hands. His voice filled the chamber. "You still believe this is about 20 children? It isn't. It's about every child taken, every family broken, every planet you called resource instead of home. You wanted to measure us in credits. You forgot that humans don't sell what they bleed for." He let silence settle, then added quieter, crueler, "And we never forget who tried." The holoscreens shifted again. One by one, they showed systems across the empire. Depots dark. Relay stations silent. Warbeast pens cracked open. No grand fleets arriving, only sudden, inexplicable collapse. Maria met Nathan's eyes. "They're ready. Then let's be merciful," he said. Kavar staggered back, shrieking, "You cannot threaten the galaxy." Nathan's smile sharpened. "Threats are words. We're long past words." Above, the human ship stirred. Simple vessels by design, scarred and ugly, but carrying weapons born from desperation. Rods of iron, kinetic slugs waiting for release, orbiting like judgment itself. Sarah, the archivist, tapped her cane. Her voice, weary but clear, cut through the panic. "Listen, they do not need fleets. They need gravity. A falling stone makes no speeches, yet it ends empires." The nobles froze, realizing. Nathan addressed them softly. "We learned war the way children learn fire. Not because we wanted to, but because the world kept burning us. You gave us no choice, so we became the flame. We don't relish it, but we don't run from it." One of the smallest children whispered, "Dad, bring us home." Nathan's eyes softened, if only for her. Soon, Owen stepped forward, grin fading for the first time. His voice was steady steel. "You wanted a transaction. Here it is, 20 lives for an empire. Payment due now." The chamber erupted in shouts. Nobles begged, cursed, threatened. Kavar lunged again, but Maria's hand stopped him mid-motion. A quiet dismissal. He fell, broken in pride more than flesh. Nathan raised his hand. The human ships above aligned. The holoscreens flickered with coordinates, precise and merciless. "You have one choice," Nathan said. "Submission or extinction." The words landed heavier than weapons. Not shouted, not thundered. Spoken with the calm finality of a man telling his children it was time for bed. The auctioneer, trembling, lifted the gavel one last time. His hand hovered, unsure. If I strike this?" "You choose," Nathan said. "Strike for submission, and we stop. Strike for arrogance, and we finish." The chamber waited. The children's eyes were locked on him. The nobles' breaths held. Kavar's voice rasped, weak but desperate. "Don't bend. They are nothing." Sarah whispered, "They are everything you feared." The gavel fell. The boom echoed. "Submission," the auctioneer gasped. The chamber shuddered with it, as if the empire itself flinched. Nathan bowed his head slightly. "Wise." Owen exhaled, cracking a grin again. "See? That wasn't so hard." Jiro muttered, "Took long enough." Maria closed her eyes, murmuring a prayer that sounded like gratitude. But Kavar screamed, scrambling to his feet. "No. You will regret mercy. The Empire will." Nathan silenced him with a glance. "You're still thinking in terms of empire. Stop. Think in terms of children." Kavar froze, breath shuddering. For the first time, no answer came. Nathan turned back to his children. The barrier dissolved. 20 small bodies rushed forward, colliding into arms that had crossed stars for them. Laughter broke through sobs. Relief sang louder than any weapon's discharge. The nobles watched, powerless, as the meaning settled into their bones. The humans had not come as conquerors. They had come as parents. And parents were worse than conquerors, because they could not be bargained with, could not be bought, could not be dissuaded. Nathan held his eldest daughter, forehead pressed to hers. "Told you I'd come." "You're late," she whispered through tears. "Traffic," he said with a smile that was not a joke at all. The chamber dimmed as the human ships powered down their weapons, orbiting silent but present, each a reminder. Mercy was given, but never infinite. Nathan faced the nobles one last time. "You will remember tonight. Tell your emperors. Tell your lords. Tell them humanity is polite. Until it isn't." The children clung tighter. The nobles dared not move. Sarah, eyes closed, whispered for the record. The day courtesy turned to fire. Nathan turned toward the doors. His family gathered around him. His final words lingered like a knife left in the wound. "You auction children. Tonight you learn the price." And above, unseen in the void, the human fleet shifted, revealing only a fraction of its hand. Enough to remind the galaxy that the smile had teeth, and the teeth had not yet bitten.